Innsmouth, stranger.
Greetings, folks, and welcome to episode 120 of the Innsmouth Book Club podcast. Today, we are back in Severn Valley. We're going to be covering one of Ramsey Campbell's classics. I'm one of your hosts, Tim Mendes.
And I'm the other one, Rob Poyton. Yeah, I think was this certainly one of the first Severn Valley tales, wasn't it, if not the first?
Well, it was certainly, all of the first ones were in the same collection, so they were all written around the same kind of time. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But before we get into that aquatic nastiness, just a couple of news items. I believe there's something called the Innsmouth Literary Festival taking place this year, sir.
Indeed, yeah, I believe so. I've heard of it. I've heard that name a few times bandied around in certain circles and dark rooms. But yes, indeed, we're back. We're back at the King in Yellow's house in Bedford. And what's the date of it this year, Rob?
It's Saturday the 19th of September. We're a week earlier than usual. We couldn't get our usual slot on the last Saturday of the month, but yeah, we're on the 19th. And we can announce the first of our special guests. That's going to be Mr. Stephen Jones. Stephen's put out a huge amount of Lovecraftian material over the years. In fact, I think he's got over 175 books to his credit, including anthologies that will no doubt grace most of our listeners' bookshelves. My particular favourites of his are the three Innsmouth anthologies, Shadow over Innsmouth, Weird Shadows over Innsmouth, and Weirder Shadows over Innsmouth. That's a really great collection. And Stephen has mentioned that they're being reprinted this year. There's a new version of them coming out. So that will tie in nicely with his appearance in Oddly Moist Bedford.
Indeed it will. Indeed it will. We'll have our usual shenanigans of panels and traders and after dark, and I'm probably going to do another one of my fiendishly difficult quizzes on the Friday night.
Harder than Chinese algebra, I heard that was.
Yes. I thought I was making it too easy, but there you go. That's just my brain, isn't it?
We've got a couple of other events coming up a little bit before then. In fact, we've got two events on the same weekend, unfortunately. We've got Concrete Cow on Saturday, the 7th of March in Milton Keynes. That's a one-day RPG convention. You can go along there and sign up. They have games in the morning, the afternoon, and on into the evening. So you can have 3 sessions in effect. That's an excellent event. I went to their one last year in September. They do this twice a year. That's Concrete Cow at Milton Keynes. And on Saturday the 7th and Sunday the 8th, we have the Bedford Games Expo. That's taking place at the Athletics Club in Bedford. That's 2 days of all types of tabletop gaming, model railways, military modelling, sci-fi games. There's a real wide range of stuff going on there. That really is an excellent event. I'm going to be at that one on the Saturday, and I will be running my We Want the Gold skirmish game. So if you're in the area, do pop by and you can drop in and take part in our Innsmouth scenario. Can you escape the clutches of the deep ones, or will you be one of the deep ones doing the clutching?
Ooh, clutching deep ones. Ooh.
Deep ones in the night, clutching strange.
Nice.
I don't know. I've been I keep bursting at the song lately. I don't know what's happening. It's not like spring is in the air, particularly, is it?
Yeah.
It's the fresh sea air in Innsmouth. That's what it is. It invigorates my old cells.
Yes, it's all iodine, isn't it?
Okay, so if you'd like to follow us into the library and pick a comfy chair in our discussion of The Inhabitant of the Lake.
Right, yes, before we delve into the story itself, let's have a little look at the publication history. Now, as mentioned, this was part of the first sort of stories that Ramsey Campbell wrote in an exercise book when he was still at school. And he then sent these to Mr. August Derleth at Arkham House. Now, I'm going from the Drugstore Indian Press version of The Inhabitant of the Lake and Other Unwelcome Tenants. Note that title. Yes, but yeah, note that title because Derleth cocked it up. But this is a lovely little version, and it has some versions of the stories before they were edited by and adapted by Derleth and things like that. But we also have a really insightful afterword by Ramsey Campbell himself. So, in his own words, we have how this sort of came about here. It was only on the suggestion of two fantasy fans, the Londoner Pat Kearney and the American Betty Fujawa, that I mentioned them to August Derleth at Arkham House, to be precise, on the 16th of August, 1961. So here we go. We have an excerpt of his letter to Derleth here. Dear August Derleth, being a great fan of HPL myself, I have recently been attempting a number of pastiches of the Lovecraft mythos. There is obviously nobody better than yourself to criticize such work, and I therefore wonder if you could spare the time to discuss manuscripts of mine if I sent them along to you. Several fans have praised my work. One of them is running a novelette of mine in his fanzine, but I think you, as the greatest authority on HPL, should have the final word. Please let me know if you want them handwritten or typed, if at all.
Nice.
Yeah, and Mr. Derleth did reply, and essentially the rest is history. He sent them over, and we'll get into Derleth's advice later, I believe. Ramsey actually carries on here in the afterword, talking specifically about the inhabitant of the lake. The inhabitant of the lake began life as the thing in the lake, since I hadn't heard of the Eleanor Ingram novel. It was completed in July 1962, apparently while I was on holiday with my mother in Colwyn Bay. Have you ever been to Colwyn Bay?
It does ring a bell, yeah.
Now, you see, from being from the similar neck of the woods as Mr. Campbell, I went to all the same places as a kid because that's where you went. You went to Rhyl and Colwyn Bay.
Yeah, I think we were on the other side, so that's probably our sort of equivalent of Clacton and like Bracklesham Bay and those kind of places.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. On reflection, the idea that a family would abandon a house and leave all the furniture struck me as worse than far-fetched. But then some folk believe the Amityville horror nonsense. The Brichester estate agent has a decidedly unorthodox approach to selling properties, and even if he knows something we don't, his methods are a little too conveniently shaped to the purposes of my tale. In this story, I appear to have been trying to eschew my earlier overwriting, but the finale is too understated, I think. I don't know, I think it's an absolutely cracking story myself.
Yes.
So, The Inhabitant of the Lake, it was released by Arkham House in 1964. And as mentioned, August Derleth sort of coached Ramsey Campbell in some of the stories, suggested changes and edited and all that kind of good stuff. And it's a great little collection. It's terrifying when you think about how old he actually was when he wrote it.
That's 16 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Wow.
And yeah, it had an edition of 2009 copies. So not a massive circulation, but there we go. Now, this is where I'm getting to. August Derleth changed the title to The Inhabitant of the Lake and Less Welcome Tenants.
Right.
Whereas Ramsey had it as Other Unwelcome Tenants.
Ah, right, because they're all unwelcome.
They're all unwelcome because who's more unwelcome than Glarkey?
Yeah, which would you rather have, Glarkey or a Gonalac?
Yeah, well, this is it. It's that's the thing, isn't it? That's why that title doesn't quite work.
Yeah,
you know. But there you go. So yeah, hats off to both Mr. Campbell and Mr. Derleth for picking it up.
Yes, and I'm sure Ramsey Campbell needs no introduction to our listeners. I mean, in fact, he's been a guest twice. He was a guest of honour at the first ILF, and we interviewed him for our 100th episode, didn't we, last year?
Yes.
I'll put links to both of those interviews up in the show notes below in case you've not seen those before. But I think without a doubt is the UK's preeminent mythos author and one of the finest horror authors of his generation. So we mentioned the Severn Valley setting at the start. So let's just talk about that a little bit before we get into the story itself, because as we know, the advice was don't set Lovecraft stories in New England, set them somewhere you know. Having said that, the Severn Valley in the stories isn't the actual Severn Valley, which is a little bit further south. That refers to an area from Bridgnorth in Shropshire that runs 16 miles south down to Ribbersford in Worcestershire. Whereas Campbell's Severn Valley, well, Brichester, I think he said himself, is really a stand-in for Liverpool.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's interesting because Bridgenorth, if for listeners who also listen to our Strange Shadows podcast, will have heard me talking about Bridgenorth fairly recently, because that's where I had my Willows experience.
Ah, see, it all ties in.
Yeah, because I had my great grandfather had a farm in Bridgenorth. My uncle had a farm in Bridgenorth. I've got a lot of family around that area. So there you go.
Ah. Now, bear in mind, Ramsey Campbell was a teenager at this time. As a teenager, he'd never been to the actual Severn Valley, and the imaginary landscapes he described probably relate more to the post-World War II Merseyside scenes he was familiar with. And he recalled in an interview, there was probably a period when I was reading and trying to imitate Lovecraft whilst equally exploring what was then a considerably ruined Merseyside landscape. Whole slews of ruined streets, which I was perfectly happy to wander through on my way to odd, out-of-the-way cinemas. And because I saw the city all around me as this kind of gothic, almost supernatural landscape, I think a lot of that fed into my writing. That, to me personally, also has echoes of like the East End post-war. I mean, I was born in '63, so this story is slightly older than me. But nonetheless, when I was growing up, it was still very much that kind of feel.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting that he would come back to that later with the first in the Three Births of Daeloth trilogy.
Yes, yes.
Because that's obviously set there. And you can just see, like reading that, it's so obviously personal experience, a lot of the things, because the descriptions of the places and the people, they're too real to be not. You know what I mean?
They're very vivid, aren't they? Yeah. And of course, the ritual to raise up Daeloth is in the Revelations of Glaaki, I believe.
Indeed, it is.
Which we're going to be looking at later on. Now, there are a number of locations, both in the story and in the Severn Valley in general. In the story, we get Brichester, Mercy Hill. I think Goatswood is mentioned as well, which I always think is a great place. And I love this description for Goatswood. The close set, dull red roofs, the narrow streets, the encircling forests, all seemed somehow furtive. And the residents of Goatswood have a distinctive, off-putting appearance. A typical resident is described as revoltingly goat-like. So that's Campbell's Innsmouth, pretty much, isn't it? That's his.
Or Dunwich,
or
yeah,
Dunwich,
or Dunwich,
yeah.
Because didn't who was it had the goat-like experience? Was it Wilbur? He had an almost goatish experience.
He had quite a goatee face, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Caprine.
Preen. Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and there are plenty of other locations in this setting as well, such as Temp Hill, Severnford, Clotton. And in fact, Chaosium put out an anthology edited by Scott David Anulowski called Made in Goatswood. That's a collection of stories by various writers set in Campbell's fictionalized Gloucestershire. And if we turn to gaming, I think Glaaki is certainly a big feature in the Call of Cthulhu RPG. And there is a Severn Valley campaign book called Ramsey Campbell's Goatswood, which I don't think I've ever seen, actually. I'm not sure when that came out. Might have been when I had my break from gaming, perhaps. And if you want to see maps of the area as well, we'll put a link in below to the Wormwold blog, which has maps of the Severn Valley and also a homemade expansion for Arkham Horror 2nd Edition.
Nice. Yeah, Goatswood and, well, the Severn Valley actually also appears in Fantasy Flight's Arkham Horror living card game as well. And there is actually there's a two, I think it's a trilogy of novels set there. One of them, I've got them down there. I can't remember for the life of me what they're called, but they're all about Glaaki. So they're the tie-in Arkham Horror novels.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah, so it permeates in. I think out after Lovecraft's milieu. I think I'm right in saying it's the second best known Lovecraftian milieu, not created by Lovecraft.
Yes, certainly, I'd agree with that.
Because obviously you got like Pugmire's Sesqua Valley and all that kind of stuff, but I think this is a lot more well known.
Off the top of my head, I'm sure there are some Sesqua Valley scenarios, but I can't recall a campaign setting as such. If there is, then please do let me know because I'd love to have a look at that.
Mm.
Well, really, it is an adaptation that brought us to do this story on this visit because there is a graphic novel adaptation, The Inhabitant of the Lake,
Ah.
by Alessandro Manzetti and Stefano Cardoselli. Now, this I've just actually received today, and it is a fine-looking adaptation, black and white graphic novel. The artwork is very stark and yeah, very in fitting with the story. I've not had a chance to have a proper look through it yet, so that's my bedtime reading for this evening. I shall remember to shut the window and draw the curtains because we can just see the lake from our room. So don't want to encourage any slug-like entities, do we?
Yeah, and just one last before we do one last thing when while we're talking about adaptations, I'm gonna go musical now for you. Don't worry, I'm not gonna sing it for you this time, but Iron Maiden actually based a song on this story. It's the song "Still Life" from the 1983 album "Peace of Mind."
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's a very good song actually. It's one of them more sort of mid-paced ones. It's got a very sort of atmospheric feel to it. I love a lovely bit of guitar work in it as well. But yeah, if you look at the lyrics, you can see what it is here. So it's like, take a look in the pool, and what do you see? In the dark depths there, faces beckoning me. Can't you see them? It's plain for all to see. They were there. Oh, I know you don't believe me. Oh, I've never felt so strange, but I'm not going insane. I've no doubt that you think I'm off my head. You don't say, but it's in your eyes instead. Hours I spent out just gazing into that pool. Something draws me there. I don't know what to do.
Nice.
So there you go. It was actually based upon this story.
Okay, so let's crack into the story then. And it opens with, again, it's quite a Lovecraft setting in that it's someone talking about their friend, which is quite common in mythos stories. After my friend Thomas Cartwright had moved into the Severn Valley for suitable surroundings in which to work on his macabre artwork, our only communication was through correspondence. So again, a very familiar approach.
And right from the get-go, it's just bags of atmosphere, isn't it? I thought just one shout out as well to the edition that I'm going from, which is the Drugstore Indian Press version with the French flaps. I always like to mention that.
Of course you do.
But it has some tremendous illustrations by Randy Broecker. Actually, tremendous illustrations. I mean, the front cover is an absolute masterpiece of Glarkey in all his glory. But yeah, the one here, it's great. She just got all this weird seaweed and strange aquatic life forms squiggling about. It's great. It's great.
And I suppose straight away, the first thing you get is a bit of a Pickman vibe here because Cartwright is an artist of the unusual and macabre, though this takes quite a different turn from the Pickman story, I think.
Definitely.
We do get that idea of his artwork being so disturbing and what is described as his extremely startling, morbid technique that dealers commend his paintings highly, but doubt they would appeal to the normal collector. But surely you don't want the normal collector, you want the abnormal collector, didn't you, for this sort of stuff? And I like this phrase as well. Cartwright decided to settle somewhere which would have a more fitting atmosphere than the clanging London streets. Clanging London streets. I think that's great. That's very evocative. You can hear, like, I don't know, buses and bells and all that clamour you get in the big city.
Yeah, it is a great sort of description, specifically for London, because you have the clanging, because obviously you had all the bells and the ships and all that kind of stuff. Because where I grew up in sort of Manchester area, you would describe as a clatter, because it was all the threshing mills and all that, and all you'd hear all day is like,
And we certainly get somewhere that is a real contrast, because an estate agent at Bridgester told him of a lonely row of 6 houses near a lake some miles to the north of the town, which he might be interested in viewing since it was supposed to be haunted. So we've got a double thing there. We've got the isolated location, peace and quiet, but there's also already this air of mystery about it.
Yeah, definitely. We got a lovely description of it here, don't we? We found the lake easily enough from his directions. and for some minutes we stood gazing at the scene. The ebon depths of the stagnant water were surrounded by forest, which marched down a number of the surrounding hills and stood like an army of prehistoric survivals at the edge. On the south side of the lake was a row of black-walled houses, each 3 stories high. They stood on a grey cobbled street which began and ended at the extremities of the row, the other edge disappearing into the pitchy depths. Pitchy depths.
Pitchy Depths. I think I had his first album, Pitchy Depths. So again, just because we read it recently and because it was the first Smith story I ever read, Genius Loci springs to mind, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And this really is a place that has a very physical presence.
Yes, definitely.
Now, this is where we get this interesting intersection, I think. And again, this is something quite typical with Lovecraft. We've got the supernatural. We've got mention of hauntings. We've got the desolation. We will get, as we see, the cosmic aspects, because this is all down to a meteorite and something that lived on the meteorite. So a little bit of colour out of space kind of thing. But also, this creature is not supernatural. It's alien to Earth.
Yeah.
But we also touch on the folklore-ish as well, with this idea of a haunted lake. I mean, it's a bit like haunted houses in this country, isn't it? Throw a stone and it's going to plop into a haunted lake at one point. And I suppose top of the list really is Loch Ness. Everyone knows Nessie. But of course, we should also remember on the shores of Loch Ness, we have Boleskine, which was the residence of one Aleister Crowley. I think he did his great work there. Spent about a year or so there, I think. And has had a bad reputation ever since. Didn't Jimmy Page buy it at one time?
I think so. I think it was Jimmy Page.
But then I think it burnt down. And as far as I know, it was rebuilt. And I'm not sure what it is at the moment. Loads of stories around both of those locations. My personal favourite is Desmary Pool, Bodmin Moor in Cornwall, which is very much associated with the King Arthur legend, of course. In fact, that's where the Lady of the Lake dished out the sword and then took it back. As we know, watery bints dispensing swords, no basis for a government.
The watery bint dispensing swords. Yeah.
Anything down that way on Bodmin Moor or Dartmoor, there's some similar places on Dartmoor. Just being there, they're very haunting places. There's a really strong atmosphere in those.
Yes.
I found a local one as well, a fairly local one. Hook Lake in Potter's Bar, which is not far down the road from me. That's widely regarded as the most haunted fishing lake in England, said to be haunted by a white spirit known as the Boy. Anglers have reported seeing a white mist and an eerie screaming face apparition above the water at night. That'd put you off your trout fishing, wouldn't it?
Would a bit, yeah.
And another one I'd like to mention, and there's a lot of choice here because I'm still working on my my Worms of the Earth sequel, which of course starts in the hills, the Fans of Wales. And well, in the Worms of the Earth story, we have Dagon's Mere, right? There's a haunted lake if ever you wanted one. But there is a place in Snowdonia, and I'm going to murder the pronunciation, called Llyn Dwlyn, which is steeped in folklore, rumoured to be haunted, bottomless, and it contains World War II bomber wreckage.
Nice.
That's like ancient and modern in that location.
Yeah. Well, while we're on the subject, I wanted to just talk a little bit about a village here in West Sussex called Binstead. It's just outside of Arundel, not terribly far. Now, a couple of years ago, I actually did a full walk around of all the various sites in Binstead. It's one of those non-nucleated villages, so there's various different bits. Like there's a wood which has a cryptid in it, and a haunted pub, a couple of haunted houses. There's a stretch of road that has a phantom cart and all this kind of stuff. But it has 2 distinct bodies of water. Now, the first one I'm going to mention here, this is going to make you laugh because it's called the Knacker Hole in Burgess's Field.
Oh, brilliant.
That's what it was originally known as. It's now known as the Nooker Hole. But yeah, Knacker Hole, I think it just makes me laugh. It's a mythical hole like the one at Lymister, which is said to house a dragon and is bottomless. It's also, another theory is that the Nookers hide if the pond is drained in the clay beneath the bottom. Now, Nooker comes from an old Saxon word, Nikor, It's typical of all the tradition continuing since Saxon times that the local versions of these ponds' old names, as popular awareness of their supernatural denizens faded, transmuted to more familiar, similar words such as knacker. There's other knucker holes along the coastal plain at Lyminster, Sompting, which is near Lansing, not far from it. There's another one at Lansing, Honeyman's Hole, and one in Worthing as well. But this is not the end of Binstead's aquatic perils. There's one called the Madonna Pond, which I went there. It's a creepy place. It's quite a big pond. And right next to it is a Madonna statue. I think it was the Pope it was blessed by. But it's a statue of the Madonna. But obviously it's encased in, like, it's in this kind of casing now and like covered in barbed wire and stuff to stop people trying to nick it, which just gives it a really creepy sort of element.
Yeah, can imagine.
But the Binstead Pond, now known as the Madonna Pond, is again said to be bottomless. And it's said at night that you will hear the screams of women and children coming from this pond because there was a crash. A horse and cart went into it, apparently.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they tried dredging it and things like that, but never found anything. So yeah, it's a haunted pond, basically.
That puts me in mind of the woman in black with the horse and cart going across the causeway, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we have these 6 houses, and they're all looking in a pretty bad state. It looks like they were all sort of built at the same time, though. There seem to have been some additions to some of them, and it's not looking good in terms of finding a habitable place. The first couple they look in are totally decrepit. However, one does stand out a little bit.
Yes, because the estate agent's actually given them one key, hasn't he? And the only one locked house. So it would make sense that that's the one, because they've gone into one of them, haven't they? And it's just like there's holes in the floor and dust and grime and peeling wallpaper.
So yeah, they unlock the door and go into this place, and it kind of looks okay. It's furnished. Everything looks clean. We've got a kitchen with the stove, a cabinet. There's a bed, though it's bare of blankets. The whole house, notwithstanding the outside, was almost as one would expect a Brichester house to be if the occupants had just gone out. So you do get this sense of the Mary Celeste, the occupants have just up and left, which, as we find out shortly, is exactly what happened. And he seemed surprised that all the furniture would be included as well, which I was thinking was a bit of a bonus, really. Because, one thing, if you're moving into a new place and it's unfurnished, you've got to bring all your stuff with you.
Well, it does happen the other way as well. I've moved into places and I've had my own furniture, and you move it in and the furniture that's in there is crap. So you've got to get rid of it.
One thing I like with Ramsey's writing style in this is we get small details added in as we go along. Even the name of the narrator, we don't know at first. We get these little details added in. So we get this growing picture, not just of the horror, but of the mundane as well. And this is something that he does really well. This gradual encroaching of the horror on the mundane. I think he's a master at that.
I think that's the sort of hallmarks of Ramsey Campbell, really. I mean, I don't think anybody does it better, of that drip feeding and slowly, very, very slowly building the unease. It never jumps out to you, like, to begin with, does it? It's very insidious the way he writes. I think, and that's exemplified by things like Midnight Sun.
Yes.
And Fellstones as well, actually, I would say.
And here we get it, because when they go back to the estate agents, Alan, Cartwright's friend, notices that the postcard advertising the houses by the lake was almost hidden in the upper corner of the window, almost as though they don't want it to be seen, which is a very small thing and could just be totally innocent. But, it just adds to that growing disquiet. And the estate agent seems a little bit surprised when Cartwright says, "Yep, okay, how much do you want? What is it? I'll move in as soon as I can." And I like this. "I can't say it looks haunted to me, even if that does explain the price. Still, so much better for inspiration, eh, Alan?" "Oh, yes, you're going to get plenty of inspiration. Don't you worry about that."
Yes.
And this is where we get the backstory about the last tenants, who just left a few weeks ago. well, fled really. And the estate agent explains that he got a letter about a week after they left saying why. And they didn't even want to go back in daylight for all their stuff. The sort of basis of it is their kid was waking up at night screaming about something coming up out of the lake and looking in at the window. So, okay, that's not great, but kids have nightmares. But then there was another experience as well. Apparently, the wife found the writer of this letter out about 11 o'clock one night, staring into the water. He didn't see her and nearly fainted when she touched his arm. Then he just loaded everything there was room for into the car and drove off without letting her know even why they were going. So that's the husband going over to the lake and looking into it and going, no, no, come on, we're off. Because he says later there was something at the bottom of the lake looking back at him.
Yeah. And that's where them Iron Maiden lyrics, there's that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. We then return to the mundane world because Alan is back at his job at the Inland Revenue. So we've got estate agents and taxmen in this one.
Yes. Yeah. And the inevitability of death from Glarkey. There we go.
This is where we meet Joseph Bolger, who's basically giving Cartwright a hand to move all the rest of his stuff up there as well. Then we get into this series of letters from Cartwright starting the 3rd of October 1960.
I like we get the address here as well because he adds the return address. It's not as vivid as H.P. Lovecraft's, or esoteric, I should say, as H.P.
Not as esoteric. No.
But yeah, it's Thomas Cartwright, Lakeside Terrace, care of Bold Street Post Office, Brichester, Gloucestershire.
Yeah, these houses aren't even on the postal round, are they? They've not got numbers or anything. They're really out in the sticks.
Yeah, yeah.
And Cartwright says, yeah, I moved in. It's all very comfortable. A bit inconvenient having the toilet on the 3rd floor. It's quite an unusual setup, I suppose. He's had a look around the other places, had a little walk around the area. And he gets a little bit curious as to why there are 6 houses here in this desolate place. You might expect it if this was part of a farm or something. You know, you get a little group of cottages out in the middle of a field. We have that around here. But there's no sign of any farm or anything else going on. So why would you build these 6 houses in a row by this rather odd lake? And you get this sense that the lake is already getting its hooks into him, so to speak, or its spines.
Yeah.
Because he finishes this letter with, just finished my new painting. It shows these houses with the lake in the foreground and the bloated body of a drowned man at the edge of the water. Relentless plague, I think. I hope they like it. Yours, Thomas. Oh, P.S. Been having nightmares lately. Can't remember what they are, but I always wake up sweating. Just an aside, isn't it? But that's, you know.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. It's ominous. It's very ominous. Yeah. I like that because relentless plague ties into their first impressions of the place, that it looked like it'd been abandoned due to some plague. And then that ties in later, doesn't it, with the what they call it, the green corruption or whatever, you know.
So the next letter is the 10th of October, and here's where we get that request for the bits and pieces that that his friend forgot to bring up from the studio. Perhaps you could bring them up, or if you could call on Joe Bolger to bring them up. So Alan goes round to see Joe Bolger, and Bolger gives us his impression of the houses and the lake as well.
No, it's all right. I'll still go, even though I don't much like the idea of going to that lake. How do you mean? I asked. Something you don't like down there? Bolger shrugged. Nothing I could put my finger on, but I certainly wouldn't like to live down there alone. There's something about those trees growing so close, and that black water, as if there were things watching and waiting. But you must think me crazy. There is one point, though. Why were those houses built so far from everywhere? By that lake, too. I mean, it's hardly the first place you'd think of if you were going to build a row of houses. Who'd be likely to live there? Who indeed?
So the next letter is the 16th of October. Joe's been up to see Cartwright again and take the stuff. And this question is still being asked about why were these houses built? And Cartwright writes, I get the idea that a band of murderers or highwaymen perhaps could have operated from here, living off the passers-by, a sort of l'auberge rouge stuff. I have no idea what that means.
Well, l'auberge rouge, being a bit of a true crime buff, is the Red Inn affair. Which, the Red Inn, it was an inn originally named L'Auberge de Peribiel. Apologies for my pronunciation. The Inn of Peribiel, or however you pronounce it. In the 19th century, it was the site of a notorious French criminal scandal known as the Red Inn affair. In 1831, after a customer, Jean-Antoine Enjolras, was found dead by a nearby river with his skull smashed in, the owners of the inn, Pierre and Marie Martin, and their employee, Jean Rochette, were arrested and eventually charged with his murder. During the subsequent trial, numerous witnesses testified to other crimes committed by the accused, including up to 50 murders at the inn, and to aggravating circumstances of rape and cannibalism.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, there were rumours that the owners used to serve their intended victims meals containing cooked body parts of previous victims.
Ooh.
So, yeah. Yeah. Yes, indeed. There was a case in America. Was it the Benders, the bloody Benders? They had a bed and breakfast, and it was a similar kind of setup.
Right.
But they were convicted of the murder that they were arraigned on and executed by guillotine in front of the inn with a crowd of 30,000 onlookers.
30,000?
Yeah.
That's huge for those days, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. And apparently they were operating for about 23 years and were said to have amassed a fortune of 30,000 gold francs, which is approximately 600,000 euros in today's currency.
I say crime doesn't pay, eh?
Exactly.
I wonder what their TripAdvisor reviews were like. Don't stay here because you'll sort of Sweeney Todd Airbnb, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. It does have that kind of air to it, doesn't it? Or even Sawney Bean or anything like that. You know, it's where you get these families preying on travelers and all that kind of business.
And this letter rounds off with another rather odd little occurrence. I just broke off writing because I thought I heard a noise outside. Oh, it must have been a mistake. No one could be out there at this time of night. But I could have sworn that someone was yelling in the distance. There was a sort of high-pitched throbbing too, like an engine of some sort. I even thought there was something white, well, a few white objects moving on the other side of the lake. But it's too dark to see anything. There's a lot of splashing down in the water. So something white on the lake splashing. Well, it's probably swans or geese or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then, of course, we think of the New Orleans Cthulhu ritual, don't we? And
of course,
strange white things in the trees.
Yeah, and also if you tie into your sort of lore of haunted lakes, I mean that one in Binstead, like there is supposed to be an apparition of a boy, or similar to the one that you mentioned as well.
Yes.
It's always on the far side of the lake. So, and you see on the like twilight, you see a sort of pale figure on the other side of the lake. I mean, that's quite a common trope in these kind of specific lake pond hauntings, isn't it?
Yeah. Was that in Turn of the Screw as well? I think one of the film adaptations, like the ornamental lakes, isn't it, in the garden and that sort of stuff.
That's it. Yeah. I think it was the Innocents, which was filmed near here at Sheffield Park.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, next letter, the 24th of October. The nightmares have intensified, and because he left the window open, he hears a lot of splashing and disturbance on the surface of the lake again. And we get one of these lovely dream sequences. I have to say again, I think this is ripe for adaptation, this story. This is where it goes into the whole colour tone changes. We get one of those Vincent Price, Fall of the House of Usher type dream sequences, which were always done really well, I thought.
Lots of Vaseline on the lens to make it blurry. There you go.
Steady on.
It's a go-to. I mean, that was always the thing, wasn't it? But they'd put like a smear of thin film of Vaseline on the lens. Why don't people do that anymore?
Probably because lenses cost 350 quid.
Oh, yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
So, yeah, this is, we're in sort of typical dreamland stuff here, aren't we? Of walking, going off onto strange footpaths, the trees are closing in, and a sense of walking but not really getting anywhere. You're going to end up where you started.
Yeah, and you get that sort of sense of perspective being mucked about with, don't you? And the path widening. And then we get this bit here now. The path widened a little, and at the center of the wider space stood an oblong piece of stone. It was about 7 feet long, 2 wide, and 3 high, and it was cut out of some phosphorescent stone which gave out the blue light. So yeah, this is proper mythos territory now. We've even found a strange stone. It's great, very so atmospheric way it's done. It's nice.
And there's some words inscribed on this that are very worn, barely legible, but he can make out the name Thomas Lee roughly chipped in. So he continues up the path and he hears a sound behind him. First a hollow sliding, then what sounded like measured footsteps following me. I looked back with a shiver, but the bend in the path blocked my view. The footsteps weren't coming very fast. I began to hurry, for oddly, I didn't want to see who was making them. That's a very Lovecraftian line, isn't it? I'd rather not know. I don't want to see what's making that noise.
Yeah. He's on the verge of failing his sand roll already here, isn't he?
Yes, yes. And then he pretty much loses it, right? Because he comes into a second space with another glowing stone in the center. There came a muffled shifting sound, and then, as I watched, the lid of that stone box began to slide off, and a hand came scrabbling out to lever it up. What was worse, it was the hand of a corpse, bloodless and skeletal, and with impossibly long, cracked nails. I turned to run, but the trees were so thick growing that it would have been impossible to flee through them quickly enough. Again, this is a nice mixture of things. We've got M.R. James now, haven't we?
Yeah. And it's so reminiscent of some of those films, isn't it? Because we know that, having talked to Ramsey Campbell, that he was a big fan of those old black and white horror movies back at the time, right? Because, I mean, that's the sort of thing you could expect from Karloff's The Ghoul.
Yes.
And things like that, right? I mean,
Nosferatu as well, right?
Nosferatu, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's you can picture it, can't you? It's a very cinematic scene he's written here.
And basically, he ends up with what sounds like a little group of cultists around him, and they've sort of ushered him to the edge of the lake. They shoved me forward to where I could look down into the lake. The ferns and water were unusually mobile tonight, but I didn't realize what was making them move until an eye rose above the surface and stared moistly at me. 2 others followed it, and worst of all, none of them was in a face. When the body heaved up behind them, I shut my eyes and shrieked for help. You would, wouldn't you, really?
Oh, God, yeah.
And this is where we could call this Glucky's speciality, I guess we would describe it as, because this is where he feels a tearing pain in his chest, neutralized by a numbness which spread through my whole body. At that moment, I woke. Almost like an echo from my dream, there was still a loud splashing from the lake outside. My nerves must have been on edge, for I could have sworn that there was a faint sound just under the window. I jumped out of bed and shoved the window further open. There was nothing moving in sight, but for a moment I thought I heard something scuttling away. Nothing good scuttles, does it? You know, like a nice friendly cat or a dog doesn't scuttle, does it? You know, it's going to be something horrible.
Or I would say something cute. I think cute things scuttle, like crabs and spiders.
Things are obviously taking a turn for the worse. Now, whether his friend Alan thinks this is really happening, or is it the effect of the isolation and his imagination, too much cheese or whatever it is, then, you know, because I thought this was an interesting line from Alan now. I would not give him the satisfaction of knowing he had interested me. That seems a bit strange to me. Instead, I advised him to contact the estate agent and find out the original purpose of the lakeside property. Maybe you'll learn of some hideous deed which has left a residue. So there's our stone tape, genius loci.
Indeed.
Was there a horrible murder here? And that kind of idea.
Yeah, I like this because it's a rationalization, but it's not the sort of rationalization you usually expect. Because the normal rationalization was, oh, you've been working too hard, dear boy, as you straighten your tweed jacket, you know. So he's not got a completely closed mind to sort of supernatural or the weird, but it is an explanation of a sort.
30th of October 1960 from Cartwright. Last Friday, I made a special journey down to Bold Street and found out quite a bit about my lakeside street. he has to kind of prise this out of the estate agent, who eventually tells him it's to do with the haunting of your lake. There's a story among the country people. Here we go, yokel knowledge. And it extends to them in the suburbs around Mercy Hill, which is nearest your place, that something in italics lives in the lake and sends out nightmares to lure people into it. Since the place became untenanted, people, children particularly, in the Mercy Hill area have been dreaming, and one or two have been admitted to the Hill Hospital. No wonder they have nightmares around there. It used to be the site of a gallows, and the hospital was a prison. Only some joker called it Mercy Hill, and the name stuck. So again, we've got that local folklore tying in with something that's sending out dreams, which is very mythos.
Yes.
But that something is a cosmic entity. Again, it's this really nice blending. You don't see the joins, do you, if you know what I mean?
No, because there's it's almost like a dose of Mackin and a dose of Lovecraft in the same glass. If you know what I mean, like a little weird fiction cocktail, you know what I mean?
That needs a name, that cocktail. I'm not sure what. Perhaps an Aklo. But we get the full history of the houses now, that they were built around 1790 and renovated or added to several times. They were put up on the instructions of a group of about 6 or 7 people. The people all disappeared around 1860 or 70, apparently leaving for another town or something. So in 1880, the houses were let again, but no one ever stayed long. But there's always been these rumours about the place affecting people's minds. And of course, we know about the last family who moved in there.
Yeah.
And this is where we get our first mentions of the Green Decay and Glarkey. And also we get that name Thomas Lee comes up again here.
Yes, because Lee was allegedly the leader of that group of people who had the houses built, the man who did all the negotiating. And that's really about all the facts that I can give you. So this estate agent, he's been quite cagey right from the off, hasn't he? Because even when he first goes in, you got the impression that he was surprised to see him and doubly surprised that he didn't want his money back.
Yes. Yeah.
So he's already giving off sort of vibes, this estate agent, of, knowing more than he's letting on,
But he does still have some more facts, doesn't he? Because now we get into the cosmic aspect.
Yeah.
They say the lake was caused by the fall of a meteor. Centuries ago, the meteor was wandering through space, and on it there was a city. The beings of the city all died with the passage through space, but something in that city still lived. Something that guided the meteor to some sort of landing from its deep home under the surface. If this was you and you were talking to an estate agent, I think, is it a legal requirement now? They have to tell you if there was a murder in your house.
Yes, it is, yeah.
So you might get that. You might get someone say, oh, yeah, people say it's haunted, blah, blah, blah. If I went into whatever brothers in town and said, oh, we're looking for a new place. Oh, we've got a nice place, but this meteorite from space crash landed and it had a city on it. And in the city, I'll be, okay, thank you. Either that or I'd be writing it down for a story, or going, oh, wow, cool, really?
You'd be on the phone, the men in the white coats from Mercy Hill, wouldn't you? Come and have a chat with him.
Yes, send him up to the big house, isn't it?
Yeah.
But this is quite typical Lovecraft again, right? Where sometimes the most innocuous character, it might be like a Zadok Allen or the guy who works in the local corner store, says, yeah, well, it was 300 years ago when this comet.
Yeah. Yokel knowledge, right? Nobody ever pays heed, and they really should. No digging here.
So basically, they were attracted by the inhabitant in the lake, and they set up their own cult around it and started worshipping it.
That's something that I noticed reading this again, having read Block's notebook found in a deserted home. The epistolary style is quite reminiscent, isn't it? In terms of not so much the narrative, but the location. It's that deep isolation surrounded by woods. And you get all these mentions, like in the dream sequences, of the woods closing in. And later on, there's a mention, isn't there, of the tree folk.
Yeah. So you've got that Mackin-esque aspect as well, very much.
Yes. Yeah.
6th of November, 1960. Have you seen Joe around lately? I haven't heard from him since he left here about 3 weeks ago. Poor old Joe, eh? I don't think we'll be seeing him again. Well, at least not in Joe form.
No, not how you'd want to see Joe again, anyway.
But that's just an aside because there's all this other shit has been going on. And so we get a little Halloween reference. Working till about 3 a.m. on the 31st, I finished my new painting. I went to bed around 3:30 and didn't wake up till 5 in the afternoon when it was dark. Something woke me up. A sound from outside the window. Loud noises of any kind are rare around here, and this wasn't like anything I'd heard before. A high-pitched throbbing noise, quickening in vibration and rising in pitch till it hit a discord, when it would drop to its original pitch and begin the cycle again. Sounds like sort of theremin or something.
Well, we've discussed at length like how Clark Asher Smith uses colour and vegetation and things like that to convey his atmosphere of the strange and the uncanny. And Lovecraft often uses architecture. Now, something I've noticed is that Ramsey Campbell often uses sound. He uses it a hell of a lot, like with this. And I think a great example is it's Fellstones, isn't it, with the classical music and all that.
Yeah.
And things like that. He tends to use sound a lot, I've noticed, which is, it works incredibly effectively, especially here, because, I mean, you can sort of, I was going to say picture, but you can almost hear what he's describing, can't you? And it is that kind of unearthly theremin-y thing, get the hairs on the back of the neck standing up.
Yeah, I mean, this is a real life phenomena as well, isn't it?
Yes.
You get those reports like 40 in times. There was one recently that had been solved, and it was something like underground water system or something, not quite like geysers or springs, but it was the effect of the air or the wind going through these underground tunnels, apparently, that was producing this unearthly moaning that people were hearing for miles around. I think that's cool.
Nice. Yeah, and there's the Monster Park in Italy, where it's all like the carvings of monsters and things like that. It's in the grounds of that castle where they filmed the film Meridian, Kiss of the Beast. But there was the cave, which is a mouth, and they call it like the hell mouth. And if you had dinner in there, and people used to have dinner in there, right? Like dinner parties, but they could hear your conversation like miles down the road in the village because of the curvature of it, the way the sound carried. And there was something like that recently when I went to the Hellfire Caves. There was something else that apparently if you stood in a certain spot and whispered, somebody at the entrance would hear it.
Ah, right. That's like your whispering rally.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
St. Paul's, isn't it? Yeah. I think you'd be sitting downstairs, you'd have to be careful. That prick at number 55,
right?
He gets on my nerves. Oh, hello, Brian.
Oh, I hear he knobbed the postmistress the other night.
And now we get another classic Lovecraftian trope, because Cartwright has been poking around the other houses, hasn't he? And as we know, you shouldn't go around poking things that you have no need to go poking around in, because this is where he finds, well, first of all, he just finds what looks like a page torn from a book. And we get a very lovely description of this place. It's dust, it's cobwebs, wallpaper hanging off in strips. And he finds this dirty and crumpled page from a book. And when he takes it back to read it, it starts, "They can't come out in the daytime. The green decay would appear on them, and that would be rather unpleasant. But I couldn't walk far enough for them not to catch me. They can call on the tomb herd under Temple and get them to turn the road back to the lake. I wish I hadn't got mixed up with this. A normal person coming here might be able to escape the dream pool. But since I dabbled in the forbidden practices at Brichester University, I don't think it's any use trying to resist. At that time, I was so proud that I'd solved the illusion by Alhazred to the maze of the 7,000 crystal frames and the faces that peer from the fifth dimensional gulf. This now starts to fill in the mythos lore, I guess we could call it, isn't it? Well, and we've got a heavy hitting name in there to start off with.
Mr. Alhazred.
I have to say, green decay sounds very Doctor Who-ish to me as well. I know it's normally you who bring that up, but I'll get in quick that time.
Indeed. Well, there's the Green Death, isn't there? That's the one with the giant maggots. Yeah.
That's it.
Well, I liked also the mention there of the tomb herd.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it?
Well, it obviously ties into Ramsey Campbell's story, The Tomb Herd.
Yeah.
That's what I love about this collection of stories. There's all these little links, which is something that when I set out writing my short stories, they're all linked in some way to each other. And it may be just something, a throwaway line or a place or something like that. But I love that when you're reading like a collection of short stories and there's just these little breadcrumbs that go all the way through them.
It's nice world building, isn't it? And I think, I mean, Lovecraft does that to an extent, but I don't think Lovecraft ever maps it out particularly. So yeah, you'll get ghoul-haunted Arkham. You'll get those strange people in Innsmouth, but it's not quite as detailed as this, is it?
No. It seems like Ramsey Campbell had more of a plan, if you know what I mean.
It's a man with a plan.
Yeah, which actually, when you think about it, makes perfect sense, because he originally wrote all these stories set in Lovecraft's milieu as was already laid down and had already started to be codified by that point, right? By people like Derleth and all that kind of stuff. So obviously when he then transplanted it into his own neck of the woods, so to speak, it makes sense that it would be more coherent.
Yes.
So by proxy, it was already mapped out.
And that handwritten note ends with a classic line, "You'll no doubt want proof. Well, in the cellar." And that's it. And, you know, as the Ramones always told us, don't go in the cellar below, right? But of course, he's going to, isn't he?
Of course.
But he's going to do that the next day. No point going stumbling around in the dark. But that night, I had a strange dream. It must have been a dream, but it was very realistic. So this is one of those dreams, not dreams. It's all actually happening.
Yeah.
Voices were speaking under the window, strange voices, hoarse and sibilant, and somehow forced, as if the speakers found it painful to talk. One said, "Perhaps in the cellar. They will not be needed until the pull is stronger anyway." Slowly the answer came, "His memory is dimming, but the second new one must remedy that." Another replied, "Daylight is too near, but tomorrow night we must go down." Then I heard deliberate heavy footsteps receding. In the dream, I could not force myself to look and see who had been under my window, and in a few minutes the dream ended in uneasy sleep. So we're starting to get to that stage with this guy that often happens. It's difficult for him to distinguish reality and unreality, and very soon we're going into hyper-reality as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's probably a phenomenon most of us have experienced. Often when you're staying in like a hotel or something, and you're sort of in that weird hinterland between sleep and wakefulness, when you're sort of lying in bed, maybe tossed and turned a bit, you're finally drifting off, and somebody clumps down the corridor outside the room, right, on his mobile phone or something, right, talking about, "Yes, tell Bill the stock market is crashing," you know, and that'll then feed into your dream, won't it? You know, your brain will interpret that in some weird way.
So, of course, the next morning he's going to go down into the cellar. He finds a small bookcase down there full of dusty yellowed books. He removes the books. And he does notice while he's there an archway at the other end of the cellar, beyond which was a steep flight of stairs. But those stairs led down, as far as I could see. I suppose he has sense enough not to go down those ones. But it's going to take these books back and have a look at those. And we find we have different volumes of the same book, 11 in all, and the book is called The Revelations of Glarkey. I opened book one and found it was an old type of loose-leaf notebook. The page is covered with an archaic handwriting. I began to read, and by the time I looked up from the fifth book, it was already dark. So here's where, in Call of Cthulhu terms, he starts to increase his mythos knowledge at the expense of his sanity, of course.
Well, he even says, doesn't he, it's a mythos, which I thought was a nice touch. Yeah, the fantastic mythos of which it tells.
And apparently what he learns a number of things, that the revelations have been reprinted elsewhere, or pirated as he describes it, but this is the only complete edition. The man who managed to copy it down and escaped to get it printed didn't dare to copy it all down for publication, because this is a book made up of different writings. The original handwritten version is completely fragmentary, written by different members of the cult, and where one member leaves off, another begins. That sort of reminds you of another religious book, doesn't it?
Indeed, I was going to say that. I mean, that has parallels with the Christian Bible, doesn't it? I mean, that's
Yes, yeah. So he learns that the cult worships something which lives in the lake, as the estate agent told me. Perhaps the estate agent's a cultist. Did we think of that?
mm,
There's no description of the being, but it's made out of some living iridescent metal, as far as he can make out. But there's no actual pictures. We get numerous references to sentient spines and details of the initiation of a novice into the cult of Glarkey, which explains in its own superstitious way the legends of the witches' mark. So there it is again, that lovely tying in of local folklore with mythos lore.
yes,
One interesting thing with this is so often they'll try and explain the superstitious away with rationality. Well, this kind of does the same thing, but the scientific fact here is that what causes that so-called witch's mark was an extraterrestrial.
yeah, it's great, isn't it?
So it's scientific, but it's explained in supernatural terms. Interesting inversion, I think.
Yeah, I like this because it even mentions old Matthew Hopkins here. So I'm required by law to do my Vincent Price impression.
Oh, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
My name is Matthew Hopkins, Witchfinder. Yeah, there we go. Has to be done. I'm sorry.
Excellent. And this whole process is detailed about Clarkey basically shoves a spine into your chest, injects a fluid into the body. The spine then detaches itself from Clarkey. If you can escape at that point before the fluid enters in, then you're going to die. But, that's probably the best outcome for you.
Mm.
But once this fluid's in, it spreads right through the body. And basically you become, kind of zombie, I suppose, under the control of the god.
Well, I found it interesting here because you've got mentioned just at the end of this passage. On the other hand, the book does mention heretics who insist that the spines can be found buried in certain hybrid Egyptian mummies and say that Glarkey came before through the reversed angles of Tagar, which the priests of Sebek and Karnak knew. There are suggestions that the zombies of Haiti are the products of a horrible extract from early cult members who got caught in sunlight too. I like this because Glarkey, these spines, it really it brings to mind the pufferfish, doesn't it?
Yes, that's the visual image I have. Yeah, definitely.
It's the pufferfish spines, and we know that tetrodotoxin, pufferfish venom, is what the voodoo people use to create zombies because it brings on a death-like paralysis. They would then bury people, then dig them up and convince them that they were the living dead. And, Serpent and the Rainbow, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's this nice world building.
That weaving of all these different backgrounds, isn't it? Yeah. And this is where the green decay is explained as well.
Yeah.
Because these reanimated or animated bodies, they've got about 60 years of this half-life. That's a nice way of putting it, if they're not exposed to too intense light. So again, quite a vivid cinematic shot you could see there of one of these being exposed to daylight and dissolving in green goo.
Yeah. Almost like the Raiders of the Lost Ark, but green goop. That'd be great.
Now, here is where we get the mention of Aklo, the 48 Aklo unveilings. And now we're back in Macon territory. So Aklo is a fictional language, first mentioned by Arthur Machen in The White People, where we have a girl's journal that includes the passage, "I must not write down the real names of the days and months, which I found out a year ago, nor the way to make the Aklo letters, or the Chian language, or the great beautiful circles, nor the Mao games, nor the chief songs. I may write something about all these things, but not the way to do them, for peculiar reasons." Peculiar reasons. And of course, Lovecraft picked up on this in his most Macanesque story, The Dulwich Horror, where in Wilbur Whately's journal we read, "Today learned the Aklo for the Sabaoth, which did not like it, it being answerable from the hill and not from the air." Now, of course, several other writers have picked this up and run with it. In the Illuminatus trilogy by Shea and Wilson, Aklo appears as a language used in black masses and by the Illuminati. Alan Moore later used Aklo in his Lovecraft tribute short story and comic The Courtyard, in his 2010 comic Neonomicon, and again in Providence. In his adaptation, Aklo is not just an alien language, but a key that opens doors inside the human mind. According to the lore and the legends, the Aklo language and script was first used by the Serpent Men some 1.5 million years ago during the Pleistocene epoch. Our favourite. We like the Pleistocene epoch.
Nice.
I have visions of like Tony Hart, Pleistocene dinosaurs, like a morph.
Yeah. Do you remember what was it? Moss chops or whatever it was. Do you remember the kids thing? The Pleistocene dinosaurs. I
don't remember that.
I can't remember what it's called. But I remember there was a big blue Pleistocene dinosaur called Moss chops or something. I don't know.
Nice. I'll be looking that up later. To this day, the Aklo language is still employed in certain spells and rituals. One of the best known public records of the Aklo language is the Unaussprechlichen Kulten, which contains a key to deciphering the Aklo lettering system and a rudimentary dictionary. There you go. If you want to know how to order wine in Aklo, or please can you tell me what time the bus leaves, then you want to get your Unaussprechlichen Kulten out.
Nice. Yeah, I've used Aklo a bunch in my stories and tied it in with various bits and pieces. It's one of those very handy mythos sort of things that you can explain. Oh, he was talking gibberish. I believe it was Aklo.
Nice. This is where it works not having stuff too detailed, doesn't it?
Yes.
Because then every writer after is free to add their little spin to it. We're not into the world of I think you'll find that in the Third Age they had 6 buttons on their sleeve and not 7.
I remember that when the first series of that Lord of the Rings Amazon TV series came up. We were on about the sandals and things, and it was just like, you guys got nothing better to argue about.
And you know what? It's all made up. Having said that, don't get me started on the Conan films. So, I'm just as bad.
Yeah, we all have it. Now we get some more marvelous world building here, because just after mentioning the Aklo and Veilings, Campbell says that Glarkey seems to have crossed the universe from some outer sphere, stopping on worlds such as Yugoth, Shagai, and even Tond. Nice. Obviously, Yugoth, fungi from. We've covered all the sonnets now, and
yes, we have. Yeah.
Now Shagai goes back to another one of Ramsey Campbell's stories in this collection, the insects from Shagai.
And we get a mention of Volthoom as well, right here.
Indeed, yes, that's it. Yeah,
there are other things too. The race of which Volthoom is merely a child, the source of vampires, and the pale dead things which walk black cities on the dark side of the moon. Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we could be unkind and say this is where we get the shopping list, the Derlethian shopping list, except for me, what really changes this is all Campbell's stuff now. We get the priests of Chig. We've mentioned the horrors of Tond. We've got the green sun of Yifne, the dead star of Balbalao, the great cities of blue metal and black stone. Some Yokado speak of a city of crystal in which things walk unlike anything living. He does that almost Smithian thing of in a paragraph, this is not world building, this is universe building.
well, it's like the Lovecraft thing, isn't it? From the depths of the planet, Yaki Declac Ashton.
And I think it's funny, old Alan here. Well, I suppose he doesn't really say what he's making of all this particularly, does he? But he doesn't reply to the letter. I had intended to reply sooner, if only to take his mind off this latest focus of his morbidity. So I suppose he is putting it all down to artistic imagination and desolation and all that kind of stuff. But before he can get his reply off, in fact, he's sitting down to write a letter, he gets a phone call. "Alan, thank God," said a hysterical voice at the other end. "Drop everything and come in your car. And for God's sake, make it quick." And I thought this was nice. Who's that? Who's speaking? Because he can't recognise the voice. "Thomas Cartwright," screamed the voice impatiently.
Yeah, I like the reason this now as well, because there's a reason that he's called him, because it's going to be dark soon. I'm never going to get out. I'm in a phone box on the road some miles from the lake, and I'll stay here till you get here. why have I got to come? Alan asks. Because they've wrecked my car engine. I've found out a lot more since I wrote, and they know. I know it all. They don't even bother to hide now. He's like, I can't call a taxi because I don't know a number.
I love that response. Why don't you just call a cab instead of
Yeah,
me up all
yeah.
that way?
I can't
That's
because I don't know the number.
Oh, that's a friend in need is a pest, isn't it?
Yeah. And he can't look it up because last night they nicked his directory. I like that.
Yes.
The days before the internet, right?
Yeah, that's little practical details, isn't it? And we know that he can't walk out because they've got the tomb herd under Temple can turn space, and the tree creatures a couple of miles up the road might take their real shapes, and you don't want that to happen. So he's well and truly trapped in there.
Yeah, that's what gave me the echoes of Block's notebook in a deserted house, which apparently Campbell he'd was inspired by that to write The Box in the Priory. That was inspired by Notebook Found in a Deserted House. So that was obviously because didn't Campbell state that as one of his favourite mythos stories?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
And now we get that other classic thing of he goes to the place, can't quite remember the directions, asks a few people, asks a policeman to at least get him to Bold Street where the estate agent is. And now everyone is going, hey, what? Who? Lakeside Terrace? I don't know what you mean. Don't know what you mean, mate. No. You sold it to a friend of mine a few weeks back. You must remember. One thing he notices, because the estate agent says, oh, are you going to be at the lake after dark then? Which he thinks is an odd question. But he does say as he drives off, the guy seemed a bit slow and rigid, and he kept fingering a spot on his chest and wincing. So yeah, you're now into Donald Sutherland territory, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah, and that other film, what is it, Dead and Buried?
Oh yeah,
yeah, that has echoes of that as well.
So he makes it to the phone box. Cartwright runs into the road. He reached the car as I began to slow, and running alongside, he yelled through the open window, "Open the door, keep driving, I'll just jump in," which is a nice little moment as well. And he says, take me down to the lake. Okay. You want a GTFOT? Get the fuck out of there. You think?
But he's gone now, isn't he, Cartwright? He's in full-on babbling. Sandroll has been failed long ago at this point because he's babbling on. Tried to phone the police, and I couldn't get through. Wires must have been down. Must have been an accident, though. Couldn't have been their work. They could never get that far in the sunlight. The green decay, it's in the Revelations. Could they? That sort of disjointed madness creeping in. I love that kind of thing.
And we get the full-on dream treatment now, right? Because now this is like visiting Cthulhu in your dreams. I kept dreaming of strange things. That black city among the weeds down there with a shape under a crystal trapdoor, and further back to Yuggoth and Tond, and that kept me awake. I got the feeling that someone was watching me, but I could never see anyone. Then I started noticing something pale, which seemed to float at the edge of my vision. I realized it was near the window. I turned quickly and saw a face staring in at me. It was the face of a corpse. What was worse, it was the face of Joe Bolger. There we go, poor old Joe. But what he's looking at is the books. They want their books back.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. We've all been in that situation, a book or a record or something.
Oh, there's nothing more annoying, is there? And this is where we get, I suppose, another sort of Pickman moment, because he decides to have a look through the rest of the books. And on one of them, he finds that the back has been slit open. So there's like a sort of pocket in the sleeve, inside of which is a folded sheet of canvas and a piece of cardboard. Don't look at those for the moment, ordered Cartwright. Remember I painted the thing in the lake from my nightmare? This is it. Now go ahead and compare it with these two. So he unfolds the canvas, which has got a painting on it. Then he looks at the piece of card, which is a photograph. So there's our Pickman shock moment.
Yes, of course. The whole I drew it from life moment. Yeah.
The centre of each picture was, it was obvious, the being known as Glarkey. From an oval body protruded countless thin pointed spines of multicolored metal. At the more rounded end of the oval, a circular, thick-lipped mouth formed the center of a spongy face, from which rose 3 yellow eyes on thin stalks. Around the underside of the body were many white pyramids, presumably used for locomotion. The diameter of the body must have been about 10 feet at its least width. Nice monster, eh? Quite Smithian.
It's awesome.
In terms of what it's slug thing, eyes, snout, stalks, spines, what the fuck?
Slug pufferfish hybridy thing. Now people, we mentioned earlier the Friday night Lovecraftian quiz at the ILF. Now, I did a round called Describe the Indescribable, in which I read passages describing a mythos entity, and the teams had to decide what I was describing. Now, that passage you just read is one of the ones that I read out in the pub that night for Glarkey. That was the passage. Yeah.
Excellent. So now they know they've got to get out. He grabbed his books. They're going to get out, but it's too late because when they go back out to the car, we've got a mass of torn wires. And now we get into siege mode, right? Now we start barricading doors and windows and all that kind of stuff. He packs a lot into this, doesn't
he? Yeah. Yeah, it's almost Night of the Living Dead now, isn't it? This, the siege. Yeah.
Or your journal found in the deserted house again, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we've got beds upturned, we've got wardrobes pressed against windows and all the rest of it. There's a hatchet lying around. I like Cartwright here. These are not action men, are they? There's a hatchet lying around, he explained. Best to have it in here. It may be useful as a weapon, but otherwise they'll get hold of it. So it's not so much we're using it as a weapon, but it will stop them using it.
Well, to be fair, that is a good survival instinct, isn't it? Somebody's going mental, hide the sharp things.
True. So, yes, there's a number of noises outside. A muffled, discordant throbbing was also audible. Water was splashing nearby. Around the side of the house, someone was slowly approaching. And I like this. He looks out the little gap between the window and the upturned bed. This is that nice, you don't quite get the full picture, but you can see the water rippling alarmingly at the shore near the window. Perhaps I only imagine that glistening shape which heaved out of the water, with long stalks twisting above it, but certainly that throbbing was much nearer, and a creaking, slithering object was moving across the pavement.
I mean, that's a great image, isn't it? Something slithering across the pavement. It's that putting the uncanny into the everyday. Just imagine it. I mean, you can picture it, can't you? You look out your window at the pavement and you can just picture something slithering across it.
It's bad enough when you get a big slug on your doorstep.
Oh, them big orange ones. Them big fat orange ones, man. Yeah.
Cartwright has fully gone by this point. Is back in the city with spiraling steeples and non-Euclidean geometry and dead things. This is a thought now, because he describes the city and then says right at the center of the city is a transparent trapdoor. Hey, don't you open that trapdoor?
Oh, something down there.
This sounds like a trapdoor monster, actually, doesn't it?
Mm.
And he said, Glacky's under there, pulsing and staring up. So is this Glacky existing in two places at one time kind of thing?
Mm.
We've got the essence of Glacky in his little trapdoor lair, but that avatar or his corporeal form is currently slithering across the pavement.
Yeah, I think it's analogous to how Cthulhu invades dreams and things like that. It's the same kind of thing. It's almost like, existing in two places at once. That's a good call.
They don't take long to break in, do they? This is a nice line. Through the front door came the dead servants of Glarky, skeletal arms outstretched to grab him, and behind them a shape towered, pulsing and shaking with deafening vibration. Cartwright just runs straight into them. I think, is this like a panic? He's just going for the door.
Yeah, I think it's that just blind panic, isn't it? Because he's flailing the hatchet around as well, isn't he? He's just sort of like have it, you bastards, kind of thing. Yeah, if it was Sean Bean, that'd be the line.
You don't just slither across pavement. Well, he does make it, to be fair. He gets through the corpses. And now he's plunging towards the pulsing shape of Glacky. But, of course, this is where the spine gets him. He actually runs onto the point of the spine Cartwright brought the hatchet down and severed it from the body. The throbbing became a discordant shrieking, and the oval body thrashed in agony back into the lake. So Clarkey can be hurt, or at least this aspect of him can.
Mm.
But Cartwright, of course, is at it. A nice little sort of tell but don't show. Outside, I picked up Cartwright's body and left it in the front seat. I did not look back at what lay near the front door, the walking corpse he had destroyed. It had been exposed to daylight. I managed not to vomit until I reached the car.
Yeah, because that's the next morning, right? Because he kind of does the typical Lovecraftian protagonist thing here, doesn't he? He shuts the door and barricades it, and then no more is said. So soon he falls into a swoon kind of thing. It's quite reminiscent of Shadow over Innsmouth, isn't it? You know,
Yes.
hiding amongst the weeds on the railway line and just honks out for a bit. Yeah.
It's all too much. Yeah. So what does he do? He goes to he walks back to Bridgester, goes to the police. What are they going to say? There's nothing to be found. The estate agent on Bold Street couldn't tell him anything about haunting. There was a painting in the car. Well, the guy was an artist. It's an odd painting. Of course, there was that metal spine embedded in his chest, but that could have been an ingeniously contrived murder weapon. However, the denouement tells us something else. The case was hushed up in the newspapers, and while the professors have not yet got a permit to fill the lake in, they agree with me that something very strange happened that night in the hollow. For the spine, with its central orifice running through it, was formed not only of a metal completely unknown on this planet, that metal had recently been composed of living cells. So there we get our verification, I suppose, that it was all true. It's not just a mad artist and an unreliable narrator.
Yeah. Terribly effective story. Great stuff.
I was surprised reading back of that because, I mean, I don't know. I think I had that in my cold print paperback. It was probably when I first read it.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Just reading that back, considering he was 16 at the time, the sheer amount of different aspects of horror, folklore, mythos, cosmic that is packed into one story there. It's quite amazing, I think.
It is, and I think it's the perfect length as well, because it's sort of novelette length, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. Yeah, but it's got enough space for it to breathe. Because often you find stories that you've got a lot, like that amount of stuff packed in too few words, if that makes any sense, and it just becomes a massive info dump.
Yes.
Whereas Campbell's really good at leaving space for things to permeate, to breathe. Yeah, like I say, I'd describe his writing style as insidious, and I'm sure he would take that as a compliment.
We hope so. Yeah, and I can see that. That's a 90-minute film, that easily, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're back to that question of why do people choose the stories they do for adaptations, Mr. Del Toro, and then do something totally different anyway.
Yeah.
There are so many weird tales that are ripe for that 45-minute, hour-and-a-half adaptation. I find it baffling that they're not being picked up.
Yeah. I think this sort of generation of TV, we're really missing a Night Gallery or a Twilight Zone or a Boris Karloff's thriller, a proper like anthology series that's what it's there for, just to do these short adaptations. I mean, that's what Cabinet of Curiosities was supposed to be, I guess.
Yeah.
But it just ended up being a lot of style over substance for me.
Even an X-Files, I know there have been Warehouse 13 and other things, but none of them.
Oh yeah.
None of them really hit that mark for me.
I enjoyed Warehouse 13. There were the Lovecraft episode was good fun.
Yes, that's true.
With the Silver Key, and there were the Poe one with the Raven quill pen, wasn't there?
Yeah. But there was that Fall of the House of Usher that I couldn't get into.
Well, I was the same guy who did the Haunting of Hill House and the Bly Manor. The Hill House was the best of the ones that they did.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't get on with the House of Usher one.
Yeah. Is it they just seem too knowing somehow? They don't have that old-fashioned, I don't want to say camp, that's not really the right word.
Well, Return of the Sorcerer, that's camp, with Vincent Price and the goat.
There is that. Yeah, there is that element, fair enough. Yeah. But they don't have that old-fashioned chill flavour to me somehow.
Well, like the Pigeons from Hell adaptation,
Yeah.
that was so well done. And the Bierce adaptation, there's been a couple of Bierce adaptations. The one of the Owl Creek Bridge was really, really well done as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So there we go. A very early example of Ramsey Campbell, but even that age, he was producing stories like that.
Mm.
And I read the Dayloth trilogy last year, and I have to say that was, yeah, one of the best cosmic horror stories I've ever read, I think, without a doubt.
Brilliant, isn't it? Yeah.
As we said to him, when we spoke to him, I'm just in awe of his ability to achieve that level of control and that gradual change over 3 novels. I mean, wow.
Yes. No. And it's not just like they're concurrent either, because they're set in 3 distinct time periods, aren't they?
Yes.
Because it's basically, they're done in the ages, isn't it? It's sort of childhood, adolescence, adulthood.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. So do let us know what you think, dear listener. I'll be interested to hear what people's favourite Ramcam story is as well, just out of interest, because I think this is only the second one we've covered. We did Cold Print quite a while back, wasn't it?
It was actually before my time, I think.
Oh, well, there you go. That is the dim and distant past.
Yeah, pretty sure that was not long before I joined, but yeah.
That was BT before Tim.
Yes, indeed.
In the time before Tim, the land was savaged and untamed. He came from the north. Kebab in hand to wreak vengeance on the Souths. You couldn't get much further south, could you? Isle of Wight, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. France.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a delve into the mailbag, shall we? We've had a couple of missives in. And we turn first to the Innsmouth Forum and our good friend Niels from over there in sunny California. Well, I'm presuming it's sunny. Might be neck deep in snow for all we know. Anyway, Niels writes, in your final Patreon Fungi from Yoggoth Sonic Cycle episode, you mentioned that you thought Robert E. Howard had only travelled outside of Texas when he went to Mexico. There's a Howardian scholar, Rob Röhm, who has taken it upon himself to travel to every known place Howard travelled to. So he's done a lot of research into Howard's travels. You can find his blog here, howardhistory.com. Of course, I'll pop that link in the notes below. But he also travelled to New Orleans with his family as a young teen and New Mexico as an adult with a friend. Once Rob Röhm tracked down and visited everywhere Howard went, he started expanding into Howard's extended family, tracing their genealogy and visiting their locations. So the blog is quite a wealth of Howardian family information. Thank you for that, Niels. I should be taking a look at that.
Yeah, definitely. Very interesting. Next, we go over to YouTube and for the episode about No Man's Land, where we have a message from Valentine 1980. Thanks for a great chat on a story I only discovered a couple of years ago. There is much more significance to the Heather Ale which Graves is offered than you give credit for in the talk, though. Heather Ale was a legendary Pictish beer, the secret of which was said to have died with them, but clearly has survived with them in the story. Robert Louis Stevenson wrote the following poem recounting the loss of the recipe. We will post that on the Innsmouth forum.
Yeah, it's quite a lengthy poem, that, but we'll put that up on the forum. Thank you, Valentine 1980. That's very interesting. I hadn't heard of that at all.
Yeah, nice. Heather beer's lovely, though.
Right.
I can't remember. It's a local, like, a microbrewery kind of thing out of Scotland does a really good Heather Ale.
I shall give that a try. I shall add that to my list of beverages that I need to try, including that Aklo cocktail we concocted earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Perhaps we'll see if we can get some of those made up for Innsmouth after dark.
Oh, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to get a load of pissed up Innsmouth festival goers running around Bedford town centre in the early hours of the morning.
It happens every year, mate. I always end up going clubbing. I don't know why.
Yeah, but clubbing in Innsmouth can have a different connotation.
So. Oh, yes, indeed. Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much for joining us today, folks. And thank you for those messages. Do keep them coming in. You can post something on the Innsmouth forum or drop us a line on Patreon or YouTube or yeah, we've still got a group on Facebook. I'm getting more and more pissed off with Facebook, to be honest, but you know, we're on there for the moment.
Yes.
Details will be up soon for the Innsmouth Literary Festival in September. Of course, if you're a patron of the show, you'll get free entry to that. We'll be posting details out to you very soon. And if you're not a patron of the show, but you'd like to support us, do check out the Patreon page. You can sign up. You'll get access to bonus content for the Innsmouth Book Club and Strange Shadows. And you'll also get your quarterly copy of Innsmouth News on PDF. So I think that's it for today. I was wondering, as the weather is looking nicer, if you fancied a quick picnic down by the lake. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, why not? It's not dark yet, is it? May as well. No.
What could possibly go wrong?
What could go wrong?
On that foreboding note, it's goodbye from me, Rob Whiten.
And it's goodbye from me, Tim Mendes.